If humanity truly wants to understand the future, it should not look at the collapsing walls of the West or the crumbling systems that have hollowed themselves out, but instead at Islam, a religion that is not merely a tradition of the past, but a force of the future, a complete system that sustains mankind when everything else is breaking. Today's world is proof of what was foretold centuries ago. Lies spread faster than truth. Headlines are more valuable than reality. People trust screens more than they trust themselves, and time itself feels compressed. Years pass like months, months like days. Elon Musk shares first thoughts on Islam live in a paradox. Wealth has increased, but peace has vanished. Luxuries have multiplied, but hearts are empty. Billionaires are restless, and the poor are anxious. And Islam already explained this long ago, that material abundance without spiritual grounding leads only to emptiness. Islam reminds us that life is a test, a journey toward a final destination. And every action has consequences, not just here, but in the afterlife. This idea of ultimate accountability changes the very mindset of a person. It creates discipline, prevents greed, builds families instead of breaking them, and turns human beings into moral beings instead of selfish consumers. Compare this to the West, where families are dissolving, addictions are rising, suicide rates are climbing, and all of it is happening under the banner of so-called freedom, when in reality people are enslaved by their desires, their devices, and their loneliness. Islam, by contrast, offers structure, 5 daily prayers that ground the soul, fasting that teaches restraint, wealth that is tied to responsibility, and community that resists isolation. People see Islam as a religion of restrictions. Don't eat this. Don't drink that. Don't watch this. But in truth, these guardrails create freedom. The way training makes a warrior stronger, not weaker. Islam is training for life's chaos, and the one who stays within it becomes unshakable. Even in the storm, empires have fallen, philosophies have vanished, ideologies have crumbled, yet Islam remains. And not only remains, it grows because it was never meant for one time or one culture. It is a timeless code that balances the self and society alike. Today, Muslims are everywhere. Medicine, technology, education, media, meaning that the values of Islam have already entered the bloodstream of the world. How Islam connects spirituality and modern life, and as global systems collapse, Islam will stand as the anchor that keeps humanity alive. Its greatest strength is not in rituals alone, but in family, community, and discipline. A child raised to know halal and haram. A society that trains itself in patience during Ramadan. A believer who bows every dawn and remembers accountability beyond this world. Together, these practices form a spiritual immune system that detoxes humanity from greed, lust, and ego. And the ultimate conclusion is clear. If mankind is to survive the storms of the future, AI control, misuse of biotechnology, slavery to consumerism, then Islam is the system that will bring human beings back to their true position, humble before their judge. Judy challenges Musk on faith and future creator, disciplined, accountable, and a mercy for the world. Technology has become the new religion of our age. Artificial intelligence has become the silent God that shapes decisions, predicts behavior, and controls opportunities. Yet with all its power, it cannot answer the fundamental questions of purpose, morality, and destiny. And this is why Islam rises as the framework that balances progress with meaning. Machines can calculate, but they cannot feel the burden of conscience. Algorithms can predict, but they cannot understand the value of mercy or justice. And data may measure everything, yet it can never measure the soul. In a world racing toward transhumanism and digital immortality, Islam reminds us that humans are not meant to become gods, but to remain servants accountable to a higher authority. And this is precisely the boundary that keeps technology from becoming a weapon of destruction. Look at what is happening today. AI writes laws, creates art, manages finances, even designs human relationships through apps and algorithms. But at the same time, we see loneliness increasing, anxiety spreading, and societies fragmenting, proving that intelligence without wisdom is chaos. Islam offers the wisdom. It teaches that knowledge without humility leads to arrogance, and the principles of unity and justice in Islam power without ethics leads to tyranny. The Quran says that mankind was created with both knowledge and responsibility, not one without the other. And this balance is the missing piece in the technological age. Without Islam's discipline, technology will enslave mankind to endless consumption, endless comparison, endless emptiness. Because every click, every search, every purchase becomes another chain around the soul. Islam cuts these chains by teaching restraint, contentment, and responsibility, reminding man that his value is not in likes, followers, or digital currency, but in sincerity and accountability before the Creator. Imagine a future where skyscrapers scrape the sky, robots replace workers, and virtual realities become more addictive than the real world. Yet inside that chaos, a Muslim kneels in prayer 5 times a day, detaching from illusion and reconnecting with eternal truth. This is the resilience Islam gives. Technology is not the enemy, but without moral direction, it becomes a silent destroyer, and Islam provides the compass ensuring that innovation serves humanity rather than enslaves it. The greatest challenge of the future is not whether machines can think, but whether humans will remember how to feel, how to love, how to worship, how to live with purpose. And in this battle, Islam is not just relevant. It is essential because it restores to mankind the one why Islam continues to inspire millions thing technology cannot code. The soul. The ultimate question for the future is not whether humanity will conquer space, create artificial superintelligence, or engineer new forms of life, but whether it will conquer itself. And here lies the choice that defines destiny. Continue down the path of arrogance, consumerism, and spiritual emptiness that leads to collapse, or return to the path of balance, accountability. And Musk compares Islam with other belief systems, truth that Islam offers as a timeless solution. All the signs are already visible. Nations competing in building towers that scrape the heavens, wealth concentrated in the hands of a few while masses drown in debt. Truth twisted into propaganda, and wars fought not for justice but for greed. These were not random occurrences. They were prophecies fulfilled. Yet within this chaos there is still a light, and that light is Islam, not as a cultural identity, but as a universal code that speaks to every human being regardless of race, language, or status. It teaches that justice is not negotiable, that mercy is strength, that family is sacred, that knowledge must be tied to humility, and that life itself is a trust given by the Creator. Imagine a world where this code is embraced. Technology would be guided by ethics. Wealth would circulate rather than suffocate. Families would be rebuilt instead of shattered, and nations would measure greatness not by weapons or skyscrapers, but by service and compassion. The decision lies with humanity, either to continue chasing illusions until everything collapses into despair, or to submit to the truth that has already outlasted empires, philosophies, and ideologies. Islam is not the past. It is the blueprint for the future, the only system strong enough to stand in the storms of modern chaos and gentle enough to heal the wounds of a broken world. And in the end, when all the noise of history fades, it will not be technology, politics, or wealth that saves mankind. Future of faith shaped by Islam's teachings, but the return to faith, discipline, and surrender to the one who created us. That is the future, and that is Islam. The world today is fragmented into endless divisions. Nations against nations, races against races, ideologies against ideologies, and even within families. There is separation between parents and children, husbands and wives, generations and cultures. Yet all of this fragmentation is not a sign of strength, but of weakness, because a house divided against itself cannot stand. And history proves that civilizations fall not from outside invaders first, but from inside decay. Islam comes as the cure to this disunity, declaring that humanity is one family created from a single soul, and that dignity belongs to every human being regardless of color, wealth, or closing thought. Islam's role in tomorrow's world tribe. This message was revolutionary centuries ago when it was first declared in the deserts of Arabia. And it is even more revolutionary today when nationalism, racism, and identity politics have poisoned the human spirit. Where other systems divide people into categories of privilege and power, Islam levels the ground, placing the king and the servant shoulder to shoulder in prayer, removing false hierarchies and returning the soul to its true worth, submission to the Creator alone. Without this foundation, unity is a fragile illusion easily broken by greed, fear, and propaganda. But with this foundation, unity becomes indestructible because it is tied not to temporary interests but to eternal truth. Imagine if nations measured success not by domination but by how much justice they provided. If communities measured strength not by wealth but by how many weak were protected. If leaders ruled not as tyrants but as servants. And if individuals saw each other not as competitors but as brothers and sisters in humanity. This is not utopia. This is the model Islam has already demonstrated in its history and promises again in its future. And in a world crying out for peace, fractured by wars and exhausted by endless cycles of oppression and revenge, Islam does not merely offer slogans, but a real system that balances justice with mercy, power with humility, and discipline with compassion. The choice is clear. Without such a system, the world will continue to collapse into chaos. But with it, humanity can finally rise above division and live as one body, united by truth.